Hi, this is Sam Stone with CBR at New York Comic Con 2022 with the cast and creators of Pennyworth, the origin of Batman's Butler. Season 3 is now streaming on HBO Max. Gentlemen, thanks for taking the time to sit with me today.
Thanks for having us.
So one of the most striking things right out the gate, there's a 5-year time jump in between Season 2 and Season 3. There's a lot of life that happens in 5 years. Like, how is it kind of like almost kind of resetting the board a bit and presenting these new characters at a new station in their lives?
So it's you again.
Time jumps are fun just because, you know, moment by moment life is kind of boring, isn't it? So if you could jump forward 5 years in your life, I mean, not me because I'm too old. If I jump forward 5 years in my life,
you've had it, yeah. Jump back, jump back.
But because we're telling a story that people know the end of anyway, to the degree that they do know the end, and that's hence the subtitle. You got to bring the changes. You got to accelerate the story occasionally to make it engaging, both for the audience and the actors. You know, and he's got a kid, and it's much easier to have a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old on the set than a baby.
Yeah.
That was essential.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, how is it, speaking of that, Thomas is a family. He's domesticated now. Meanwhile, Alfie's got his own security firm. He's a company man. Like, how is it exploring those changes with the characters, including all that life we don't see between action and cut?
I think it was a welcome jump, the time jump. I think the war and all of that at the end of season 2, you know, it gave us enough time to clean up London, basically, and then we come back in the psychedelic 70s with Alfie, succeeding, and everything he sort of set out to achieve with the security business is going well. He's working with Dave Boy and Bet, which is great to see those two characters together, I think. And and then Thomas comes knocking and asks him to do some work.
Of course he does.
As per usual.
Yes, begging you to be my friend. Yeah, and Thomas, I suppose the first 2 seasons were him working for the CIA, wrestling with his own moral conscience, you know, having to action things that he wasn't quite sure about, and then season 2 ending with him not wanting to do that anymore. And yeah, jump forward 5 years, he's a pediatrician. He's kind of coming closer to, I suppose, the do-gooder that we know of him in the comics. And he's on the straight and narrow as a family man, but of course, Patrick Wayne turns up, and Martha reveals a few things, and it all gets a bit dark again.
And also, as a fan of the Batman comics, you know that the death of his parents is what drove Batman through everything he did. But our knowledge of Thomas and Martha as parents is basically they take him to the movies and they get shot. Like, it's so little. So I think as fans watching this season, actually watching Thomas be a father, we get to say, oh, that's the kind of parent that actually Bruce Wayne actually had. That's why he was so devastated afterwards, because these two actually are excellent parents. So I actually find it quite moving when I watch it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, there's part of me that suspects that they can never stay out of the game that long either. There's a great scene that you have in season 2 where you're being hunted in the woods, and you're just like, you reminded me how much I missed this. Like, can you two keep your noses clean long enough as everything kind of goes to pot in London?
No, it never lasts very long. Is the short answer. It'd be lovely. You know, the origin of Batman's Butler subtitle. I mean, there is a series of him learning how to iron tablecloths and do stuff like that. But we don't really want to watch that, do we?
Maybe just one episode.
Not really that interested in
like
that.
The Downton Abbey kind of version of it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So we've got to sort of, have a bit of chaos.
Well, I'm curious because with this, we are leaning more into psychedelia. Psychedelia. Like, if the first couple seasons were the Beatles on pot, this is the Beatles on acid. And, like, bad acid. Like, how is it painting with those colors and creating this kind of, like, I'll throw in another Beatles reference, this magical mystery tour for the characters as they proceed?
Seamless.
No, not Magical Mystery Tour, because that was the unsuccessful album. I would say it's Sergeant Pepper. It's Sergeant Pepper. And yeah, it's both sort of true to the progress of history in real time, and it's also true to the progress of the DC world, the DC world gets stranger and stranger and more expansive and more psychedelic as it moves forward, you know, both in real terms and in kind of representational terms. Sorry, I'd used the word representational.
I loved it.
Very pompous. But yeah, that's the idea.
Right on. And, you know, how is it 2 years in or now 3 years in working with Paloma or, you know, figuring out all the different dynamics with Bet and Martha, especially as, like, Thomas has to deal with secrets with Martha and, like, all of these character dynamics.
Yeah, we were saying season 3 was really, I mean, everyone's settled into their characters now and knows what they're doing and has real ownership over that. And I've just watched the first 2 episodes and text Jack and was like, oh, everyone just seems really confident and the dynamics play out really well. Like Emma and I'm never quite sure what Emma's going to do, and it's always surprising. But the way the scenes are written, there's so much conflict in them, and they're kind of always fizzy, and they're always. I never turn up on that set to do a scene with her, and I'm never bored ever. I'm like always excited to do it, which I think is. I think we all feel like that, which is great.
Yeah, for sure. And every day, you know, I get to work with all sorts of different people, you know, because I'm in all the time.
He's the lead, darling. The lead.
But it means that each, you know, it's like, oh, it's a Ryan Fletcher day today. Here he comes. All right, mate, how's it going, man? You know, and it's just like, and it's chaos. And then we'll have, you know, everybody brings different energies. And I think, yeah, as Ben said, it's only taken us 20 hours of TV, but we now finally know
what
what
we're
we're doing.
Well, the other aspect that I find very intriguing is we're seeing more connections to, like, the V for Vendetta world. And that was always kind of, I had interpreted as a Yank, kind of a reaction to Thatcher's England. How was it, like, bringing those themes into Pennyworth, The Origin of Batman's Butler, Season 3?
It's one of those things when you're writing it, I mean, and Bruno, correct me, but we didn't plan for it. As we were actually writing the show, it became an organic outgrowth of where the show was going. We're going, oh, obviously these 2 pieces are going to come together right now. And it was incredibly exciting when that happened because you could feel our writing and the real world and the comic book canon all sort of coming together in the same moment. And when that happens, you feel like you're on good ground.
Well, with that bit of happenstance, I think that's our time. But, you know, here I am with the cast and crew of Pennyworth, The Origin of Batman's Butler, available to stream on HBO Max. Guys, thanks for taking the time.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.